can see me, please hit like and subscribe down the bottom of the screen. And our guest, you will hear. And it's really great to have him. Got a new record out called Shoot Me Your Ace. The band Reef. It's Gary Stringer. Gary, how are you? Welcome. You're in beautiful Somerset. I'm not too far from you.
Hey, Steve. Hey, hot metalers.
Great to have you. Now, I'm at the end of your sort of schedule of Australian interviews today, and that's always intimidating because I've got to be entertaining and not ask crap questions. I was reading some Kerrang interviews before, and I was thinking, how different is this to what it was, 25 years ago? How do you find it? Because obviously the band's break was maybe there was a bit of frustration with the music industry at the time. Do you like the music industry you've come back to? Is it better? Is it worse? How do you find the whole thing now?
Well, it's changed, in many ways beyond recognition. But luckily, the industry and the business side of it is not something I try and get too deep involved in. I like singing. I like being creative. I like rocking out with my friends. I like making music. So, as long as I'm making a living, I try and stay away from the business side of it, because you can spend all day on the telephone, talking about exclamation marks and contracts and whatnot. And that's not what I'm in it for. I'm in it for music. I said it years ago, and it's true. Me and Jack and the gang just like rocking out. There's certainly a lot more money involved in the game, 20 odd years ago. I mean, one of your Australian friends earlier asked me about Place Your Hands, the video. And that video cost £250,000. That was the budget for that video. And the videos we've made so far for this record have cost us, somewhere in the region of $5,000 to $7,000. The money is much reduced, but the standards are the same. I mean, certainly for our band, we've got a world-class lineup at the moment, and we're knocking it out the park. I think we've made one of the best records we've ever made.
You don't need to be spruiking it, because I will, as good as Aussie word spruik, because it is a wonderful record. I mean, the best thing you can say about when you listen to music is, to me, is that song was always waiting there to be written. Someone was going to write it eventually. You know what I mean? That's the biggest compliment I can pay any song. And there's 3 or 4 at least on there that I would put in that category. But if you were going to 10 years ago, going to some of the sort of earlier reunion shows, and now being at like Kentish Town Forum about a month ago, and seeing just a wave of I guess it's nostalgia-driven love, you know what I mean, for the band. And did you, was that mapped out to come to that journey to get from A to B?
Well, I mean, even taking this tour into account with the whole lockdown and one thing and another, we put this tour on sale a year ago. We've just finished, so we're May now, aren't we? So the April tour of the UK, was on sale previous April. And we were locked down then here, Steve. So, I mean, I wasn't all for going on this tour a year ago, because I was thinking, well, who's going to come? But luckily, the guys that manage us, they know their onions, and, they put it on sale, and we played to full rooms every single night. And it is a blessing. I am a lucky fella. I'm 49 next month, and I've been doing this since I was 19, and I'm still managing to find a way with music. And luckily I've got a great musical partner with Jack Besson, Jesse and Luke, and Andy Taylor helps out with this record, and Amy Newton, a fabulous guitarist and singer, has come and joined the band now. And it's just been a wonderful journey, from making the first record, in 1995, at the start of that whole, tail end of the grunge thing, the start of the Britpop thing, when guitars were on the radio, and rock and rolls on your TV, all over the place. working with George Draculius for a couple of 3 records, getting to meet, Rick Rubin and Tom Petty and all the gang that he hangs out with. I remember, working at Abbey Road, Sound City in Los Angeles. Some of the things that we've done, they blow my mind, I had a piss next to James Brown, in the Fuji Festival in Japan, just crazy. I remember getting off the plane in Australia and going to tour Australia, and I can remember doing "Hey Hey It's Saturday" and getting into trouble. I don't know whether you remember that, Steve, but they asked us to play one song and we played another, and it caused quite a stir. And it was funny because when we got off that plane in Australia, there was not many people that interested at the airport, and when we left there was throngs of people cheering and hooting. So there's plenty of wicked memories, man, but if you ain't present in that room on that night for a gig, then that's you hanging up your boots. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not interested in nostalgia or anything other than what we've just mentioned, and being proud of things you've done is cool, but I'm in the room. I'm present and live, and when we go out onto a stage, we want to knock your socks off, and we want to be relevant to the moment. So making a record like Shooting Your Ace has been fabulous. Even last summer when we started to open up in England, we did some outdoor festivals and we played Shooting Your Ace before anyone had heard it. We started the set with it, which was Daft or Brave or one of the two, and people got it straight away, and it just made me think we're onto a good thing here. And also, and excuse me, I'm rattling on here, Steve.
No.
But
Go for your life.
also, we made this record. We cut this record just before lockdown. So, I mean, literally the weekend before we all locked down as a country. So we've been sat on this record for 18 months. And every single time I've pressed play, it just sounded great. It sounds great. It's one of those records where I'm listening to it from start to finish. I'm dancing around my studio up the top here, and I'm thinking it's not very often as a musician you get it right in that way. And usually you've made a record and you think, oh, that song there should have, the lyrics naff, or I should have changed this, or maybe so and so could have done this differently. But on this record, no, it's it sounds great. Andy's produced it great, and played on it great, and all the boys are on fire. I mean, not one bass or drum overdub on the whole record, and cut live over a handful of days. It really was something quite special. It's a force of nature, man.
Okay. Welcome back to White Line Fever, a second part of our interview with Gary Stringer from Reef. And if you're watching, and you're listening. Thanks for not turning us off. You were talking, and I listened to some interviews, Gary, before, where you said you feel like you're getting back to where you belong, and you're talking about the album, being so proud of it. It seems to me that aside from your actual break that you had, like in years or in time, that there's been a pretty consistent quality from Reef, since the first record, and it's public tastes that have changed. You know what I mean? That people have moved away from rock. So I just wonder how that kind of those two things. You balance them out in your mind, back to where you belong, but rock isn't what it was. So is it possible to be back on that mountain again? Is there a spot for a rock act on top of that mountain?
Well, look, I mean, I said earlier in the interview, I mean, I am doing this not purely for altruistic reasons. There's a selfishness about me. It's a creative, I don't know, it's ego-driven, what it is. I try and keep ego out of music. You got to have some ego to get up on stage, I suppose, and to say I'm writing this music and I want you to listen to it. I want you to share it. I guess there's an ego there, but I think music and creativity, you say it in interviews and people roll their eyes, but it's my therapy. It makes me feel better, hanging out with the gang and rocking out and making music, and trying to create songs that are special, that have emotion and excitement and energy. So if those are your goals, which I've said from day one, that's what it's what they are. Everything else that comes along with that is a bonus. And just to be, making a living out of music in these times is something I'm very thankful for. We got a world-class band at the moment. Luke Bullen on the drums. Literally the week before this record was cut, Jesse bumped into Luke. So Jesse is the one guitar player, and he bumped into Luke coming out of a out of a lift in London, and dragged him down. And Luke has played with Joe Strummer and Brian Ferry and Katie Tunstall. He's played with some big hitters, and he's world class. And it really was the last piece in the jigsaw to have him in the band. Jack's playing out of his skin and writing music and playing and performing music as well as I've ever known. And I've known him since I was 16. He's knocking it out of the park on a consistent basis. And to have someone like Andy Taylor working alongside us, fabulous songwriter, a rocker at heart, a great guitar player and producer, made the record sound just right. All the pieces are there, and that's where I get my joy. So I try not to worry too much about where rock sits in the bigger picture of popular culture. There's a place for rock and roll. If you're doing it well, if you're making it exciting, if it's exciting you, there's chances are it's going to excite other people. And some of the tunes on this record, they send shivers down my spine. I love it.
Yeah. You mentioned Andy Taylor, of course, from Duran and Power Station. When some people some Americans I was sort of corresponding with on social media, which we didn't have in 1997. Was saying, oh, Andy Taylor is in Reef now. He's they expect him to walk out on stage with you.
Well, he did. He played with us for a year. And we communicated all the way through the lockdown period. So he was. I had a phone call from Andy, 3 or 4 years ago, inviting me over to Ibiza. He'd heard me sing a song with Benji Webb from Skindred, a song called Machine.
It's very different music, isn't it, Skindred, from what,
Yeah, but wonderful, right? That's a great song. And I was happy to sing with those guys. And I guess he heard that and enjoyed what he heard and invited me over to Ibiza, went out there and sung 2 or 3 songs, came home. He invited me out again. So, we cut quite a few tracks together. And then I told him, when he comes to England, give us a holler and we'll hook up. And he did that. And we brought him into Glastonbury, and he came and played with us for sort of 30 minutes, played 4 or 5 songs with us at Glastonbury Festival. And then that sort of turned into, well, why don't you come and see where we work? We've got a headquarters here in Somerset where we keep our gear and rehearse and record and rock out. And he came down and started playing in 11 in the morning, and we'd finish at 7. And I think he enjoyed it. He wouldn't have been there otherwise, and I know we did. And before long, you've got a pool of songs that just you coalesce in an album, man. It's just it was an incredible experience, really. And he came out and did some shows with us last summer, and we had a ball. And he's now moved on. He's going out to do the Duran Hall of Fame thing. So he's moving on. I think he's going to work on something else now. But it was a great 18 months, couple of years with Andy, and we've got a killer record out of it, and so proud of it. Andy himself said it was one of his top 3 albums he'd ever made. So wow. That's kudos.
Every now and then, perhaps in future, we might see a cameo from him, but
you never know, man. Yeah, you never know. We've brought Amy in now to play because we've got 2 parts on the guitar. We needed someone who could turn up all the time. So we've got Amy Newton, who's a super talented rock guitar player and singer, playing Andy's parts at the moment. And we'll see what the future brings, man.
What are your thoughts on sort of not having a couple of the original members with you at this stage of the career? Is it just one of those things, or is it a source of sort of you might feel it's not perfect, but how do you feel about it?
I feel comfortable with it. It's like, you look at relationships in life. There's plenty of people go through their life and they have a few different relationships, and some people stay together forever, and all of those scenarios are cool. We had the original lineup until Together, which was our 5th record, which became the greatest hits with 4 or 5 new songs on there. We did the Mickey Newbury song, and where we had a 3 or 4 other originals on there. That became our greatest hits because Dom left the band there. Now, when we took a break after that record cycle in 2010, I think it was, we got together and all got back together and worked together for 4 years, 3 or 4 years. We did some festivals. We had a lot of fun, but I wanted to, keep writing. And I can remember Quinlan, the original guitarist, he wasn't keen. He was starting his own project at that time and doing sort of Reef through the summer and just doing the festivals. And that was cool. So we knew we needed a new guitar player, and that's why we got in Jesse Wood. Then we made Revelation in 2018. So we worked on that together, worked back with George Draculius, had all sorts of different musical styles on there, from metal to gospel, all sorts. And I'm really proud of that record and really enjoyed, making and creating that record. And then after that cycle, Dom left. Dom, left sort of for good. And, we've been looking for drummers since then. And Luke Bullen turned up, like I say, walking out the lift. And it's kind of perfect. It's actually really good to have a drummer who's, if not as good, better than Dom. It's something quite special, because you're talking about, the top few percent of players there from around the world. Absolutely brilliant, Lucas. So yeah, I'm really comfortable with the way the band is at the minute. It feels good. Me and Jack are the 2 original members. Jesse's been with us 6, 8 years. A long time. And Luke's been with us for this cycle, and long may that continue.
Okay. Welcome back to White Line Fever, third part of an interview with Gary Stringer from Reef. I want to thank him for his time, and we're going to let him go shortly. I want to cover 2 things in this little 5 minutes. Australia and celebrity, if you will, the general subject of celebrity. Australia is obviously a huge, and New Zealand, right? I hear the songs in New Zealand all the time on radio and at sporting events as well. They're big markets for you, aren't they? Why is it? I believe the surf rock thing is something you don't like. So if I was to suggest that might be where the connection is, would that be offensive? Or
no, I don't know. I don't know where you've heard that. I mean, Jacko would be drooling at the idea of surf rock. I mean, Jacko's in the water, often. I mean, even the 2 sessions I told you about singing with Andy in Ibiza, I went on a surf trip to Morocco in the middle of that.
Wow.
I mean, we still get out and about. We've just got the artificial wave up the road here now in Bristol, which is something. And it's like riding a reef break. It just bangs the same place every time. And that's quite good fun for your technique. But look, we're not, amazing surfers, but we enjoy it recreationally. Jack's certainly in there all the time. He's always skateboarding. He's got a half pipe in his, back garden. The man's into wheels. He loves it. So yeah, no problem with the surf rock connection at all. New Zealand was a place I loved visiting. Such a beautiful few islands there, and the warmth of everyone, the welcome we got was absolutely fabulous. I'm pretty sure we played in Christchurch there and done real well. Really enjoyed it. Australia we've been to a few times. What a fabulous country, absolutely suits us down to the ground. And often when we go to Japan, we go to Australia as well. So I'm hoping that we can make a trip, if not to New Zealand. I'd love to go to New Zealand, but certainly to Australia. It'd be fabulous, mate. Yeah, I mean, all of you guys down there in the Antipodes, it's absolutely wonderful countries you've got, and great people, and have always welcomed us.
Yeah, I think the sort of little touchstones of the brands and the clothes and it's something that I grew up with. Going to school every day, the surf culture was permeated through all of society in Australia. Whereas here, it's a bit more fringe. You know what I mean? So I think it may perhaps a bit easier for you to connect with an Australian audience because of that. Because of the vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think surf and skate culture has become more mainstream, hasn't it? From when we started, back in the mid 90s, certainly surfing. I mean, I was lucky. I grew up. I mean, I'm in Somerset, which is not landlocked, but there's no surfing coast here. So I had to drive an hour and a half, to get a wave. But I grew up with a bunch of people, the cider surfers here in Somerset. And, they were just a good gang. They were older than me. They were always, into rock music and into surfing. And you'd have a session and you'd get up early and you'd go and, get in the water. And that was just part of my growing up. So for me, it was just lifestyle. It was what we did. But certainly in the UK in general, back in the 90s, yeah, you're right. Surfing and skating was more of a fringe activity. I think it's more in the mainstream now, but yeah, I love all that, mate.
Now, two more things. I'll be really quick. You kind of, as a recognisable face, came along, but I'm just between Damon Albarn and Justin Hawkins, right? And you are maybe and a similar level of recognisability in the street. And then you just go away, and I guess people don't see you, and then you come back and you got a beard. And I just wondered, what as an individual to go through that, to be recognised in Tesco and then to not be recognised, and then to be on TV and have people on social media go, "Wow, he's got a beard," and you know what I mean? Like, what's that like to go through? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. Maybe more. I'm sure people have had it a lot heavier than me. But I get recognised. I mean, I went down. I had I bust my knee up the other week, and I went down for an MRI scan the other day. I was signing CDs for the girls running the scan, and I'm in London. I pop up the road, get on the train. I'm photos with people, and it happens. It's not every day, but it happens. And I guess your life is your life, isn't it? And you don't really. They say you don't know a man's life until you've walked in his shoes, and that's true. It's true for you. It's true for me. And you only know your own shoes. The other shoes don't fit, and you've got to just be yourself and get out there and do your own thing. And it's just my life, and I love it, and I'm happy I've led it.
Yeah, and you don't worry too much about how other people perceive it. I guess that's the secret, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And finally, just interesting. With Rufus Taylor being in the darkness, I just mentioned Justin Hawkins, and you've got Jesse Wood in your band. Interesting coincidence. Does that what is that add a certain dynamic to the band, and is it add other issues to deal with when you got someone in the band who's got such a famous dad? Basically, I mean, does it bring up other things and other things you got to deal with and other issues?
I think it's I think it's something that obviously media pick up on. I mean, the reason Jesse Wood is in our band is that when I told you Quinlan left because he wanted to do his own thing, write his own music, we auditioned 6 or 8 guitar players, and all of those guys who come down and played were shit hot. They were absolutely mint. It was fabulous couple of days playing with these guys who we'd sourced from various places. Our manager had brought in a few, and we were working through. But Jesse turned up. The difference was Jesse jammed with us. So we gave these guys 3 or 4 songs to learn, and all of them were blinding. But what Jesse did on that day is he knew the songs, he played the songs brilliantly, but we also ended up jamming for like 15 minutes. And that was something that was really special. And I think that was what ticked in the box to get that boy in the band, because, he turns up with this tatty Vox amp, plugged straight in, and away you go. And that kind of suits our style.